It's 4:20 somewhere, and right now that somewhere is right here, the Denver Post newsroom. I'm producer Vince. Welcome to the Cannabist Show, and right over here we have your host, Ricardo Baca.
Producer Vince, thank you so much for that, and welcome to a special South by Southwest themed edition of the Cannabist Show, everybody. We're coming at you from downtown Denver, Colorado, USA, where it's a beautiful day outside, and we have a great show lined up for you. Now, we start each show with a quick rundown of some of the week's biggest and sometimes strangest headlines from the marijuana space, and holy hell, do we have some winners for you this week.
I hope they're all from the strange side of things this week.
Up first, Producer Vince, is a new bill introduced in the U.S. Senate. This one's pretty straightforward, but it would remove federal prohibitions on medical marijuana in states where it's already legal.
Yeah, and this bill's a really big deal. It has bipartisan support, and it looks to move marijuana so it's no longer a Schedule I substance.
Exactly, and if they're successful in reclassifying marijuana as a Schedule II substance, that could open up possibilities for more research, treatment options, a lot. Of course, this wouldn't legalize medical marijuana outright, but it would amend federal policies many say are outdated.
Plus, don't the majority of Americans support the legalization of marijuana in 2015?
Yes, they do, Vince. For the first time in the history of the General Social Survey, a majority of Americans favor legalizing cannabis. The poll just came out last week, and there are actually 146 million Americans, or about 45% of the country's population, who live in a state with some form of legal pot.
And that survey is considered the gold standard in public opinion research these days, right?
It is. It's a big boy. And again, this is the first time Americans have favored legalization in this survey, so it is a big deal. Our friends at home can learn more about both of these stories, the Senate bill introduced in D.C. and the General Social Survey's results on thecannabist.co. What another big story making waves this week comes from a viral video taken by police.
Oh, these ones are always the best ones.
Now, Producer Vince, you know it is. Imagine this. You're driving down the interstate when you're passed by a white truck just hauling past you and throwing giant bales of marijuana out its windows, out the left window, out the right window. Police are in pursuit, Vince. More bundles of weed are being thrown out the truck's windows as it cuts off other cars and eventually exits the highway.
That would be just an awesome sight to see. I really hope that it was a white Bronco at the very least. Of course, people were pulling over to pick up a pound or 3 or 4, right?
You know they were. It's true. Do you mind cueing the video, Vince?
You know I don't.
This all went down last week outside Casa Grande, Arizona. The police's dash cam video shows it all as nearly 20 bales of marijuana were thrown out the window amid the high-speed chase. So the police recovered 374 pounds of pot, but 4 or 5 vehicles were seen on the side of the highway stopping to pick up the rest of the goods.
And these are just good Samaritans trying to pick up a little bit of trash on the side of the highway. Who cares if they're doing it at 50, 60 miles an hour and then bailing out as fast as they can?
Indeed. It's such a bizarre video, and it's one I was just laughing about with our first guest. Will Evans is the development manager at a pot shop located in one of my very favorite places in the entire state, and he brings some insight on what legal cannabis looks like in the far-off southwestern corner of Colorado known as Telluride. Will, thanks for joining us on the Cannabist Show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So you're up in Denver for a short spell today, but how are things going in Telluride lately?
Things are great. The scene is very casual, very relaxed. One of the things that we really enjoy about the Western Slope in general is just the lack of competition amongst shops. We have 4 shops in town, and we find ourselves working together more to attract customers because one group will come into one shop, say, where else can I go? And they visit all the shops in town. So we see much more of a collaboration amongst the shops. So there isn't kind of the cutthroat attitude that you might find here in Denver with so many shops in such a close proximity.
And you guys are so out there. You're so separated from, civilization pretty much.
You have to want to go there. You have to want to go there. I mean, Telluride is on a road, at the end of a box canyon. There's one way in, one way out. And as of January 1st last year, it was just Telluride on the Western Slope. And recently, Durango's come online, and there's more and more shops coming into that area. And so as we see that happening, we've seen a slight decrease in some of the traffic that comes to Telluride, but overall, things are great.
Well, do tell me about January 1st, because not a lot of mountain towns were open and, selling marijuana on January 1st, 2014, but Telluride was and your shop, Alpine Wellness, was.
Absolutely. Going into January 1st, I'd say that a couple of weeks leading into it, it was such a scramble. Like everyone was trying to what are the rules? What do we have? What can we do? And it was getting the shop ready and making sure that we had the website, we had the packaging, we had all the inventory ready to go. And we had our county commissioner, Art Goodtimes, who's a big advocate of bringing the legalization of pot to San Miguel County.
And he has one of the best names in politics,
Art
right?
Goodtimes, you can't go wrong. Let the good times roll. He was our historic first customer for the legalization of the recreational side. Came into the shop, made a purchase, and left. And we were one of the only shops, I think the only shop, that ran a full-page ad in the paper that said "End of Prohibition," like one of those old school alcohol prohibition
Sure.
posters. And it was exciting because we saw so many people leaving the shop, paper in one hand, bag of weed in the other, holding it up, getting their picture taken. And the flood of photos on Instagram, the flood of photos on Facebook. It was really exciting to see such interaction with our shop and our entire community.
It was historic, and I'm curious what you have to say about this, because you've spent plenty of time in Denver, Boulder, surrounding areas, but for some reason, legal marijuana feels differently to me when you're in Telluride. And I don't know if it's the town's history with marijuana. Do you feel the same way?
I think so. It's the community vibe. I mean, our shop, we're a family of friends, first and foremost. We come together in support of one another, and we try to help each other do good things. And that attitude is apparent the first time you walk into the shop. And that's what our customers experience. And I think that's what our entire community exudes when it comes to the marijuana scene. If you come to Telluride and you're going to buy weed, people want to help you out. It isn't one of those things like, oh, don't talk about it, we don't want it here. The entire town is excited about it.
Right. I was up in Telluride in the fall, and the attitude toward pot was just so casual. I remember I stayed at the Peaks up in Mountain Village, and before I got there, I remember emailing the hotel, what's your policy about marijuana? And they emailed back, we're a non-smoking hotel. And I said, all right, cool. What's your policy toward vaporizers, edibles? And they emailed me back, we're a non-smoking hotel. And I was like, okay, so basically...
Fill in the blanks.
Yeah, they were basically saying, sure, go for it. And, having a drink at the Fly Me to the Moon in town with some friends, it was interesting because there was product on the table, on multiple tables, and multiple people excused themselves from the bar, go upstairs, outside, have a smoke. This is generally the feeling about it. But in Denver, I was at a bar recently with one of my freelancers who's into concentrates, and he was showing me a concentrate. He had one of those tiny little containers on the table, and a waiter came over here and said, hey, wait, you guys can't have that out here. So it just feels really different. Would you say Telluride is more casual than it is up here?
I wouldn't say that it's more casual in regards to the laws. I think everyone wants to, cross their T's and dot the I's. But I think in the general acceptance that there isn't a strong opposition force to cannabis in San Miguel County. There are certain residents that may not want it in their backyard, kind of a deal, but as a whole, people see it as a benefit to the community.
Well, tell me about this, because Alpine Wellness is a great shop. I think the owners are really hands-on, and I respect that about the shop. But what's your top-selling edible and your top-selling strain?
Our top-selling edible and our top-selling strain, hands down, the Gondola is our #1 top seller in the shop. The Gondola,
Nice.
It's 10 milligram caramel. It's amazing, 6 delicious flavors. The logo on the front is a gondola, so the whole idea is that you're on your way to do something awesome. And it's
Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome at that point. And that hands down is our most popular item in the shop. After that, it's available for wholesale now, which we're really excited about. We're in more and more shops here
Denver
in the
and
Front
Boulder.
Range.
Cool.
Denver, Boulder, Front Range, Mountain Towns, Western Slope, and other shops in Telluride carry it as well. I mean, that's how popular it is. And I would say for our top-selling strain, Jabberwocky, hands down, 303 seeds, great company. We've consistently grown over a 30% THC version of Jabberwocky for the last several months. And people come in, and it's the one strain that we sell at a market rate. We have pretty good prices. We have ounces starting at $220 to $365.
Recreationally?
Yeah, recreationally.
Sure.
And our Jabberwocky will go above that. And we have a hard time keeping it in stock.
That is a heavy plant at plus 30%. Well, I do want to talk to you about this, a recent piece that I wrote, especially because you've lived in Telluride for 6 years, and you've met San Miguel County Sheriff Bill Masters.
Bill Masters.
So you, of course, know that last week a very big lawsuit was filed against the state of Colorado. It's the 4th lawsuit now, trying to kill the state's recreational pot program, and this one was brought on by sheriffs in Colorado, Kansas, and elsewhere. Now, after those sheriffs announced their lawsuit, I called Sheriff Masters down in your neck of the woods to talk to him about what he thought about these sheriff's lawsuits, and he had a very, very bold words to say. And I'm just curious if you saw the piece and what you think about what Sheriff Masters said.
Bill Masters, first and foremost, is a stand-up guy. He's well respected. He's been a longtime sheriff of Telluride, and he's a stickler for the law. He wants the rule of law to be in place, but at the same time, he believes in individual rights and individual states' rights. And I think his words are very clear and to the point. When you have state officials that are elected on a local level, what is their obligation to enforce the law at a federal level? Constitutionally, none. And that's the argument that he's making. Are the rules right the way that they're written? He doesn't really support that. He thinks there's issues and there's things that need to be changed. But it's pretty clear on where his opinion is as a sheriff and how he would direct his resources. So it's really up to these other counties to figure out what's important for them and whether or not they're acting on behalf of their constituents, or if this is something much more like we're trying to hold on to power still because they're afraid of change. Mm-hmm. It's too hard to say right at this point.
And Masters is a libertarian, and he did tell me, and our viewers at home can find this whole story at thecannabist.co, that he didn't really notice a difference in pre-legalization Telluride and post-legalization Telluride, which I thought was interesting, and I'm wondering if that resonates with you.
Absolutely. I don't think that we saw an increase in crime. In fact, I don't think there have been any crimes since legalization, not in the way that people foresaw, like the mafia is going to come in and there'd be guns and drugs and hookers and nothing like that. I think it's more
prostitution goes along with marijuana legalization, right?
Day in, day out. I think that what we've seen is a real embrace from the community, from the businesses. Everyone sees that pot tourism, cannabis tourism contributes to the local community, especially being in a resort town, having a great shop, being a part of a family of shops that work really well, being a part of a family of friends that are promoting this energy. I mean, the girls in the shop work really hard. Grady and Mike Nolan, who are the owners, work really hard at setting the vision for the shop. All of us in our own way, execute that vision.
Sure.
And it works really well. And you see that same attitude in every shop that you visit. And you'll get customers coming to our shop and like, where else can I go? They make the tour around town. Telluride's small, it's 4 blocks long.
It's a very quick tour.
And they come right back. And that attitude really reflects and resonates. I mean, people have embraced us.
Will, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank
Alpine
you.
Wellness in Telluride. My next guests will be in Austin, Texas in the next week for the world premiere of their brand new documentary film, Rolling Papers. With a title like that, you'd guess that the movie is about marijuana, and you'd be right. But the film is also about print journalism and how some of the reporters at this very paper, the Denver Post, covered the first year of legal recreational cannabis sales in Colorado, Uruguay, and beyond. Director Mitch Dickman and Director of Photography, Zach Armstrong, welcome to the Cannabis Show.
Thanks. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. This is not fair.
So, full disclosure. I was one of the people you followed around with a camera, right? For like a year.
Yes, amongst others. But yeah, I don't think we had any idea where we were going 14 months ago. And now you're asking us questions.
The tables are turned, and it's so fun to be on this side of the interview. How do you like being interviewed, Mitch?
I don't enjoy it very much. I definitely like being behind the camera. It's not fair to not be over there. And yeah, and there's another thing. It was like not only on this side, but like asking you and John and Eric and these, very seasoned journalists and reporters was kind of an intimidating part of the process to like, that's what you guys do, and I think you felt the uncomfortability that I felt, at this time, or right now.
It's a bizarre experience for sure. Rolling Papers has its world premiere at the Vimeo Theater in Austin on March 15th during South by. Zach, are you nervous?
Just a mild panic attack that's been going on for a couple weeks now. Other than that, I'm fine.
A panic attack that lasts 2 weeks?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
What about you, Mitch? You nervous? You feeling good about it?
I think we have a strong film. I'm confident in the film, but yeah, it's always nervous to show it in front of a group, and you never really know how that's going to go. But there's a collective energy when you get 600 people in the same room watching something and see people laugh and see people be moved by the emotions.
Zach, when people ask you about Rolling Papers, what's your quick pitch? What is this film about?
I just say it's legalized recreational marijuana through the lens of you and your team at the Denver Post.
Nice. Succinct, to the point.
Yeah. It's my elevator pitch.
So I'm going to be honest, after more than a year of asking these guys asking me questions, it's fun to flip the script. So let's flip the script a little bit more. I'm going to ask you guys some of the questions that you've asked me multiple times over the last 12 months, all right?
Wait, can we talk to my agent first? No, I don't have one, so it doesn't matter.
All right, Mitch, we're starting with you. I know you subscribe to the print edition of the Post, and you read it daily, so, I mean, what are your thoughts about the future of newspapers and print journalism?
I think that's a great question. I personally enjoy the printed copy of the newspaper, and asking Greg the question of decline in sales, and he's like, we haven't seen ourselves as solely a print newspaper for a long time. So, for the Cannabist to be built from the mobile app out, to have a TV show like this, I think that you guys are on the front edge of redefining the way audiences read journalism. And I don't think it has to be a newspaper. If I like an old school printed newspaper, that's fine, but I don't think that's for everybody. And I think that there are still, what we learned in the process is that there's still people that come in and day out and do their job. And I have a lot of respect for that. And I think as a society, we're better off to have journalists doing this kind of coverage.
Sure. And the Greg you mentioned earlier is the editor of the Denver Post, Greg Moore, of course. Zach, are you high right now?
Suck. A little bit. Yeah. I smoked in the car before I came up here.
Nice. What'd you smoke?
Dairy Queen.
Oh, Dairy Queen.
Yeah, Dairy Queen from Maggie's Farm down in Colorado Springs.
Oh, sure.
The only rec shop down there, in Manitou, technically.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Manitou Springs getting its second rec shop here pretty soon.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's on the Cannabist.
You learned something new.
Uh-oh. Mitch, are you high right now?
A little bit. Same stuff with Zach.
And once you see the film, you'll kind of get it. It's an inside joke that these guys kind of brought to it. Zach, you once called yourself in an interview with myself Mr. Normalization, in part because of your relationship with weed that changed pretty dramatically.
Can I answer that?
I haven't asked the question yet.
Okay, go ahead.
But you know, your relationship with weed changed in 2013. You barely thought of it.
Yeah.
2014, it's kind of a daily thing with you. And I'm just curious, how did that happen? And have you given it more thought in terms of how exactly that happened?
Yeah, it's weird.
Do you think it really was just legalization happened and availability happened and then it's in your pocket?
I think maybe also I'm older now, and so I can kind of control. I stopped smoking weed because when I went to CU Boulder, it was like 4-foot bong rips, and that was not fun. I would just turn green and fall over. And so, now I'm more of an adult and I have a little bit of self-control, so I can take the right dosage. And I think right dosage and right strain, those are the things.
Right.
And just experimenting with that a little bit made me realize, I do love weed.
And it could be like a little sip off your vape pen, like Whoopi Goldberg.
Exactly.
Nice. All right. Mitch, I'm curious, because you've asked me this question a number of times. What do you think the biggest story was regarding worldwide marijuana in 2014?
I mean, hands down, the edibles. The story that you broke with that, I think, just showed that it's going to be a work in progress. There's going to be problems, but there needs to be the kind of fourth estate watchdog out there doing investigative work that shows when things aren't up to snuff. And so, if Dr. J's is sending out bars that have 0 THC in them, for you to pursue that story in that way, I think opened up a huge can of worms Maybe that's because we view the same thing in the film, but I still think it's also, film aside, I would say that was the biggest story of 2014.
And what Mitch is referring to is a piece of journalism we did here in February, March 2014, which involved us testing 10 or 11 different edibles manufacturers to see if they actually met the THC amounts that they advertised on their labels. And it was fascinating because many of them didn't. I think 2 of the 11 actually nailed it, and everybody else was pretty significantly lower, except for 1, which was higher. But I think edibles really did kind of define the year that was. And Zach, now we're turning the focus on you. Making films is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. And I'm just wondering, what's your favorite memory from the last 14 months making this specific film? Because you've met so many people. You've met people inside the Post newsroom and Cannabist freelancers and state regulators.
Well, of course, the time we spent together in Uruguay was awesome.
Very romantic.
Very romantic, yeah. Meeting Ingold was crazy because I went to high school with him.
That's
we graduated together.
Oh, that's right.
That continues to blow my mind. We didn't know each other in high school. Our class was only like 200 people.
I will always remember that. Yeah, I think it was like February, and you came up to me and you're like, I think I went to high school with John Ingold.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's amazing. He's
Yeah.
done the majority of the Post's marijuana coverage for the last 5 years, and here it is, you knew him in high school.
Well, we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
We didn't know
you
each
knew
other.
of him.
He was doing the paper, and I was, not really
Doing 4-foot bong rips?
Yeah, wasn't really attending classes.
Yeah. Well, you already told us what you were
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
in high school, so I want to bring Will back into the conversation with us. This question kind of brings back what Sheriff Masters was saying down in Telluride. He didn't notice a difference between pre-legalization Telluride and post-legalization Telluride. And outside of your guys' behavior, I'm just wondering, have you noticed a big difference in your neighborhoods, in your day-to-day lives, since these marijuana sales began? I mean, Mitch, have you noticed a difference?
Not at all.
And so you don't even smell it more in your neighborhood
and
or when you're out for a drink?
I've lived in the same neighborhood for the last 12 years, and I haven't really had the conversation with many of my neighbors, haven't noticed anything different, hasn't changed any relationship. So I would say that. Sometimes you do just smell weed. That's changed, not necessarily in my neighborhood, but in different parts of town. You're like, oh, I smell that, and that's normal now. So I do think that Denver smells like weed sometimes, and I don't think that's such a bad thing. But I don't see any change in the day-to-day of my neighborhood.
Sure, Zach?
I
I know you live part-time between Denver, Colorado Springs, but
I'm seeing things through a different lens.
well, clearly. But what about everything around you? Do you smell it more when you're driving around the streets of Colorado Springs, or?
No, definitely not in the Springs. Springs doesn't even have a rec shop. They only have the medical shop. So Springs seems the same. Denver, yeah, definitely smell it. And where you used to smell dog food going by the Purina factory, you can smell weed up there now.
And is that
Potbelly.
It's probably a better thing.
It is a better thing, yeah.
that's definitely an
Eric
advantage,
Gorski.
except for those who are allergic to weed. I'm writing a story right now about people who, they touch the raw product, they smell it, inhale it secondhand, firsthand. They are allergic to it because it's a plant that pollinates, and it is, it's an allergen, which is fascinating. Will, I know you spend plenty of time up here and you go to rock shows, and I've noticed a big difference in rock shows. There's so much more weed and so many more vaporizers at rock shows. What about you? I mean, your feeling about Denver Boulder, do you sense it more post-legalization?
About Denver Boulder, I couldn't really comment. I could say for a fact that in Telluride, we have quite a bit of celebrities that come through. Pretty much one of our biggest angles is reaching out to musicians because we're really big music fans, and we love to say that we have rock star prices. And we get, the very first guests we had come through were Fort Knox 5 from Washington, D.C., which just got legalized cannabis as well. They came in. We've had Thievery Corporation there. Impresarios have come in. We had members from this recent film that Quentin Tarantino was filming come in there, and it's because we offer a certain kind of privacy that you can't get at some of the other shops, and so that's good. But in general, in neighborhood, we have seen a change, not on a local level, but as a tourist level. We already were a tourist town, but there's clearly an impact the cannabis industry has had on folks just coming into town like, ha-ha, Telluride, mountains, weed, and they're excited. And we see that. Local are just like, ha, that guy just left a dispensary, because you can tell who just left a dispensary in Telluride, because they're just like, all right, where can I go? What can I do? Obviously, you can't do things in public, but you do know who's who that's from outside of town that's like, all right, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to be able to have this experience now that it's legal.
And of course, Quentin Tarantino was just down there shooting in Telluride, and you're saying some of his crew. Any actors pop into Alpine Wellness for an 8th?
I haven't seen actors myself. I know that many of the crew have come in, and it's one of those things where we just have an app that came out, and we were trying to get it in place in time so folks could actually pre-order and come in and pick up their order and have it ready for them. But we've got a lot of people from the crew. Usually when bands come to town, like March 4th Marching Band, other bands that we're really good friends with, they come through and we'll shut the doors and let them kind of have a private shopping experience, then send them on their way.
I like March 4th. They're good guys. I have some good news. It's time for this week's pot quiz, which is like a pop quiz, but for pot. So the teams are Mitch versus Zach versus Will. We're going to see how clued in you are with current events and news in the cannabis space. This is kind of a surprise to these guys. So if you don't know the answer, or if you answer incorrectly, the others have the opportunity to steal the answer based on whoever gets in there first. So if I say the answer's wrong, go ahead and shout out, and you get the point.
I was told there'd be no test.
You were told wrong. Will, we're going to start with you.
All right.
What Colorado Republican senator came out recently in support of legalizing hemp on a federal level in the U.S.?
Don't know.
You don't have to raise your hand.
Kaufman.
No.
Wayne Allard?
I think you're about 10 years too late on that one. Cory Gardner.
Cory Gardner.
Cory Gardner wants legal hemp on a federal level in America, and it makes sense. He is a senator out of Yuma. So
That's your stuff, too.
Mitch,
Politics.
here you go. A man in Lincoln, Nebraska has been cited for possessing pot inside a container that had been slapped with a label reading what?
From the state of Colorado.
No.
Sour cream.
No. Well,
Cotton candy.
Can I come in for a steal here? Just to try to help
producer
you
Vince,
out?
no steals for you. No. The label read "not weed," which is amazing. I don't know. Zach, here you're up now.
Sour cream was good.
What major fast food chain was punked recently when news reports started spreading the word that it would start selling recreational marijuana from its drive-thrus?
Del Taco?
No. Will or Mitch?
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes, and you barely beat Will for the first point of the game. All right, good work, Mitch. And speaking of, next up is Will. Well, what publication calling itself America's Finest News Source reported on the DEA's Stoned Rabbits theory, and I know you remember the DEA's Stoned Rabbits theory, by quoting a man saying, quote, "Rabbits are going to be getting high anyway. Better that it be safe, legal, and regulated."
Fox News.
No.
Newsweek.
No.
Damn it.
HuffPost.
Wow. You guys didn't get the America's Finest News Source part?
The Denver Post.
The Onion.
Oh.
They call themselves America's Finest News Source, of
Oh,
course.
so that was a fake story.
It was a fake
Because
story.
I thought I read that on HuffPost. Like it was a legit story,
That would be awesome if somebody said that legitimately. Dead serious. Rabbits are going to be getting high anyway. Better that it be safe, legal, and regulated.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Mitch, what major sports franchise in Colorado was rumored to start selling pot brownies at its concession stands during games?
The Nuggets, because not enough people are going to the games.
No.
Broncos.
You guys are up.
The Rapids.
No.
Avalanche.
No.
The Sky Sox.
The Colorado Rockies. I think the internet's just having a heyday with the KFC thing, with the Colorado Rockies thing. It's ridiculous, and they're just publishing these totally fake stories that people are thinking are real.
We were out of touch.
I'm
over
winning.
here.
That was like January 2nd, where they're talking
Winning.
about huge lines of people overdosing and
Exactly.
everything like that, and
Yeah.
people thought that was real.
And we have a fake news section on the Cannabist, which is a lot of fun, and that was what started it, because that ended up receiving hundreds of thousands of retweets and
Oh, yeah,
Facebook
and
likes.
people thought it was real. Like, people are calling us and like, is this real? What's going on?
I know. Are 37 people really dead in Colorado from overdosing on marijuana, which is not really all that possible to die from that. But all right, next up, where are we at? Zach. The state of Colorado proposed changes last week that would limit unlicensed, non-residential marijuana cultivations to how many plants? This one's kind of tough.
Oh, it was 12,
But it is a
right?
story I wrote, for the Denver Post and the Cannabist. So
Which means you obviously should have read it, guys. Come on.
6.
6. No. Anybody
Fudge.
else?
4.
It's a tough one.
I
No.
want to say 3.
No. It's
73.5.
Well, you can grow 6 plants as an individual, 12 per household. So this is in the unlicensed non-residential grows, and it's 36. The city of Denver is just basically trying to find a better way of enforcing, their laws when their inspectors and their officers come into these places and kind of see thousands of plants, and then they can make the call right there. Mitch, you are the big winner with 1 point.
God, that's so bad.
And a big thank you to our guests, Will Evans up from Telluride and Mitch Dickman and Zach Armstrong heading down to Austin pretty soon. I'm Ricardo Baca. That is producer Vince. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.